Thank you so much. All right. Well, hey everybody. So thank you for joining us on this webinar. This is a really exciting feature for me. So today what we're going to be talking about is going to be our localized templates. This was something that we added, I think, around a couple of weeks ago. And what I mean by localized templates is if you've ever went to go create a content and let's say add a new page or something like that, or a new slide, you may have noticed that there were templates that were available to you, but they were never personalized ones. They were never templates that you had customized, maybe branded yourself. And if you had your own server, that was possible, but now this is available to everyone. So we'll go ahead and get into what that looks like. All right. So what are we covering today? Again, localized templates. So the biggest thing here is that we're giving you a very nice user interface that you can go into where you can view different templates that you've made for your organization, and then you can add them to your presentation. So previously we had a bunch of complex workflows that you had to use where you either had to copy the widgets from one content to another, or maybe you were copying the pages from one content to another. It was just a workflow that wasn't ideal. And so that's what I think localized templates will solve, just an easy way and a quick way to make content. Now, what are the minimum requirements for this? The version is 1.11.394. I'll show you where you can find that in the editor. So if you don't see that version and it's not on your server, then that can be available to you, or just contact us and we can make that available to you. Also, if you are on any of our public tenant servers, our .us one, for example, that is already out. So you can already start using this immediately after this webinar. Another thing I want to mention is not only are these templates just available to everyone in your portal, if you do use Teams or you used advanced permissions, then that will apply to these templates. So I'll show you an example where I'm going to give some templates access to our Hungary team, and I'll show you what that looks like. So we're in Wallboard now, and I want to quickly point out that version number I was talking about to look out for. I think some people are saying they can't see my screen anymore. Are we good now? There we go. I think we're good. There we go. So now we can see my screen here. Thank you, Josh. So now you can see my screen. And what I first want to point out is that version number that I was talking about. As you can see, we're on 1.11.475. So .394 is the version that you have to have at a minimum. So just keep that in mind. Just reach out to us if you need that version. So how do we create this localized template library? What does it look like? Well, first, let me show you what it looks like. I'm going to click here on this plus icon. We're going to click on content. And now we're going to click on choose template. When I do this, this is a special template group that I set up. Again, I'll show you how to do it, but this is what the template library looks like. This is the private template library. So this would be only specific to your portal or whoever you've assigned it to within our advanced permissions. And then public, these are templates that are publicly available that we've just put on our Wallboard US server that anyone can use. So a lot of the workflow, at least that we see or we saw people using before localized templates, is that people would use these templates as a starting point. They would maybe use this announcements template. They would edit the colors, maybe adjust the logo, type in whatever their announcements are. But then if they ever wanted to use that again or import that slide into another presentation, again, you always had to copy the widgets from one content to another, or you had to copy the page from one content to another. You just didn't get a nice interface like this that you could use. Let me get out of here and I'll show you how we create this folder. First, what you'll have to do is you have to have a content group in order to use this. So you'll click here, you'll click on this plus icon, you'll go to content group. Now you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it templates. And in this case, you'll see that there's localized template groups. And if I go ahead and check this, that means that now this will be where any templates that I store or contents that I store inside of this folder, moving forward, it will appear within that window we just saw. I'm not going to click save because I already have a folder set up, but you'll notice that the icon looks slightly different. I'll zoom in here for everyone who can't see that. As you can see, the icon just looks slightly different than the sort of traditional icon that we use when we're just storing contents and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and click into this templates folder, and you'll see it's no different. As you can see, we have announcement templates, we have employee spotlight templates, we have this one that I made for Hungary, and I'll just call it employee spotlight Hungary. And then I can continue to scroll down here and you can see I have other templates that I've customized for my particular organization, which is Wallboard. Let's go ahead and start creating a presentation. We know how to create that folder. We know that if I put a template in there that it will appear. So let's say that I click this plus icon, I click content. Whenever you create a new content now, we'll just call this new content. And I'm going to change this to 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to start from a template. So as you can see, I have all these templates available to me. So I'll start with this one here, and we'll go ahead and create an open. The reason why we think that this is so valuable is a lot of organizations, typically, they may have a team of designers, which would be great, but sometimes you have a power user within an organization who grasps Wallboard a little bit more than the others, or maybe has a design background, or maybe is just familiar with software like Canva, for example. Whenever someone wants to come in here and edit a template, they can do so very easily by just clicking on our widgets that they see on the canvas. So ideally, when someone first starts using Wallboard, if you can just make a couple templates, or if you have a designer who can set up a couple templates right off the bat, that's great because it gives you a great starting point. And all you have to do is use these templates, just enter your information. You don't have to worry about designing. In this case, we'll change something here. So sorry, everyone, we're charging admission now. Christine will collect that at the end of the call. And if we wanted to change right here what our webinar is about here, we could do our Google and Microsoft documents. And I'll go ahead and lower that. There we go. Perfect. And so now I can hit save. And that would be an example of a content that I just quickly edited using one of our templates. Now, I could continue this, so I could add a page now from this content that I just created, and I can still pull it from a template. This is what I think was a big differentiator, at least for us, was that you always had to copy a page. What I mean by that is you had this copy button. Imagine every time you had to click this, you then had to exit out of this content, go in the one that you actually are creating in, and then paste that in there. Now you can just stay within the same interface and just create your presentation like you would expect. So I'll do just that. I'll go to template here, and I'll go to pick a template. And we'll choose one more. Let's say that we want to come here and we want to do some announcements. I'm going to go ahead and insert that. Now you'll notice two different options here. You'll see embed and insert. Embed, what this means is we'll bring in the content, but we'll only bring it in as we're just viewing it. So it's almost like bringing in, if you've used our content widget before, how we embed a content inside of a content, it will make it so that it's just sort of and I'll show you. You can't edit it, but it will just play it. The benefit to this is, let's say that you had maybe like an RSS media feed or something like that. That's where this would come in handy, because a lot of times when people are just trying to bring in their Facebook feed, which we have templates that you can use using our media widget in an RSS media feed, you don't necessarily want to rebind data every time. You just want to bring in your Facebook or your blog. So that's an example here. I'll go ahead and delete this, but let me go ahead and add that one more time. But this time what we're going to do is we're going to actually insert it so we can edit it. I'm going to insert it as a new slide. I'm going to change this slide to play for 10 seconds. Same here with this one. And we'll apply to fade animation. And then so now this is just like anything else, right? I want to come here. Well, maybe these aren't corporate announcements. Maybe these are webinar announcements. So if I can select this, there we go. And I need to use capitals. All right, perfect. And now I can continue, of course, adjusting it as I need to. I can adjust the font size. I can change it to my font file. So I think due to all the properties that we have and the amount of customization that you can do, I think a lot of people like to get into the system and have it look exactly how they want it to look or to fit their branding guidelines, but you don't necessarily want to do that again. So that's a reason, again, why these templates are so valuable. You create it once, you add it to the template library, you're never creating it again. I could then come in here and I could say, Wallboard just got a new feature. And we'll come in here. Oh man. It's always nerve-wracking when you're spelling and people are watching you. So that's just a quick example. Again, I could come here and I could change out this logo for something else. If I click here, for example, in our file manager, I can now come in here and maybe select our alternative wallboard logo that I have. There we go. And so now I can, change how I like. There we are, etc. Let's show one more example, and I'll show you a quick change that we're going to make. I'm going to click here on this plus button, and we're going to click on template, and we're going to pick a template. Remember when I mentioned that RSS feed? Well, I'm going to go ahead and just embed this one in particular, and we're going to hit play. This would be an example of you don't necessarily want to rebind this. You may like how this looks. This is an example of a content using our media widget that is connected to an RSS media feed. If you're familiar with how we bring in RSS media feeds, there's a website called RSS. And it allows you to take blogs, social media posts, so like think Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., and it breaks those down into a post-like format. As you can see, this would be the image that was attached to the post, and this would be the description. You can also bring in a title, for example. We're not affiliated with RSS.app in any way. It's just a cheap alternative that we found, and they're pretty reliable for what they offer. So it's just a great way to generate RSS media feeds if you don't have those available to you. This is an example here. Let's bring in one more example. Remember how we brought this in and I embedded it? Well, if I go back to my home page here, we're now going to go into our templates folder. What if I change something in one of these? What if I go into this template and let's say this one here, let's say that I'm going to change this to a different color. So I'll just change this to black. This isn't going to look overly pretty, so let's not judge here, everyone. Christine's judging a little bit because she's a design guru. And so let's pick our new logo here. All right, perfect. So now I'll clean it up a bit. So we'll put our logo here. We'll just add this right here. And okay. So it's not as good as Christine can do, but we'll work with it here. Let's say I made this change right. I just saved it. Well, let's go ahead and get out of here. And let's go back into our original content here. Let's click play. Give it a second here. And there you can see the changes have taken place. So not only can you provide templates that are almost kind of like read only, where we can just import them, and if any changes are made in the future, they will apply on the screen, but you can also bring them in. So if you want to alter it and you don't necessarily want the changes to sync up with, if let's say someone in like marketing had changed it because they set the branding guidelines and so forth, maybe you just want to make your own. That's where you would maybe use insert as opposed to embed. If you have any questions, of course, put them in the chat. I hope that makes sense as far as the differences between inserting a template, which means that you can change almost anything about it, as opposed to embed, which we're almost just bringing in kind of like a channel, right? We just want to view it. And if someone changes what it looks like, then we'll have it change on our screen as well. All right, let's get out of here and let's cover one more example. Notice in my portal, I've set it up to take advantage of Teams, and I'll show you how I do that. But as we can see here, we have a Dallas screen group and we have a Hungary screen group. So in this case, this is our Wallboard portal, and we have our Hungary colleagues in here, and we also have our Dallas colleagues. Maybe I want to allot a template, let's say, to our Hungary group because they speak Hungarian. So let me go ahead and go to Manage Teams here. And if you're not familiar with Teams, certainly check out our knowledge base, check out our YouTube channel. There's a video on our YouTube channel called Advanced Permissioning. You can check out our tutorial playlist and you'll learn more about that. But that's what I'm about to show you here. So basically, Teams is advanced permissions. It allows what people can see in the system. So you can assign a screen to someone, you can assign a loop, a content, files, almost anything that's an asset in the system or like, an asset you can assign to someone. Let's say I want to see what Hungary would see when they log in. So let me get rid of mine here and let's go ahead and hit apply. We should see the whole portal shift here. right? I can only see my hungry screen, but now if I click in that template folder, I only see my hungry template. So if I come here, I click on this plus icon and I go to create a content like we did before, I now only see that private template in my library. This is really, really crucial because a lot of times what we see is people will delegate responsibilities out. So maybe from like a corporate standpoint or from a more of like an admin standpoint, maybe you want to grant templates to certain folks or certain groups because maybe that's more specific towards their job, or again, maybe there's some language differences, English and Spanish. That's just a quick example. In this case, we have Hungarian. So I will just type, new content 2, and we'll create and open. And there he is, the man himself, Robert Simon. As you can see, this is no different than anything else. I'm not even going to bother to type something here. I could just type, thank you for attending this webinar. If you have any questions, please let us know. And so there we are. And again, you just save it, you preview it, and now you've made changes to a template. So again, just to cover it from the top, the big reason for these templates and why we included them is because previously, if you only had your own private Wallboard server, you could do this. You historically could have access and delegate these public templates out to your clients or your end users, but we didn't necessarily want everyone to just have to have their own Wallboard server and able to make localized templates. We have plenty of clients that want to brand their own templates and not have to recreate them every time or use some complex workflow to import it into their content. For our partners, this is really helpful for onboarding. So while you're going through trainings with customers, while you're teaching them something, you can actually make a template that they can now use later on. If you're working on them with something, always make sure you back it up in that templates file. Again, how do we create that templates file? I'll show it one last time. You simply come here, you create a content group. You can call it whatever. I'll call it templates. And then you just flip on this toggle here and press save. And that will give you this folder that looks different. From there, it's literally just as easy as adding templates to that folder, or I should say contents in that case. Again, if you're familiar with Wallboard, you can do that with a drag and drop. So I drop it in the folder. I can also right click on a content, go to content, move to content group, and then select templates. And now you'll see those are right there. So right there and right there. I'll leave it up to questions at this point. I'll go back to my PowerPoint here that nobody could see at the beginning, so I do apologize about that. But yes, any questions, any comments, anything that you wanted to know about localized templates?
Yeah, we had one question a bit earlier from Chris, and he was asking that he's on a trial version and are the content templates turned off? But his version is under our minimum requirement of the 1.11.475. So I think that was the answer.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify. So that is the current version. That's like the most recent version of Wallboard that's available. It's 1.11.394 is the previous version that this release came out in. So if you have that version, or if you see that version, again, I'll show you at the top of the interface here. Look for that. If you don't, just please, I would just contact us at support@wallboard.info. Reach out to us with your login URL here, and we'll either reach out to your partner or whoever and say that, hey, your client wants access to this, or you can just, again, let your Wallboard reseller or partner know, and they'll reach out to us. So that is required, but again, if you have that version, you can get started immediately.
I don't see any other questions for now. So, okay, so John Abigail is saying, most of her questions kind of relate to creating different teams. She works for a public school and is thinking about limiting who can play with what. And can she look at the training videos on different roles to cover that?
Yeah, so we have a video right here. I just copied the link. And I'll put this in the chat for everyone. So Teams is what we're using to restrict who has access to what templates. So that video right there will give you some more insight onto how to set up groups. So the Dallas and the Hungry group that I showed you, it will teach you how to set those up so that only certain users can see certain things when they log in, like you see here. So I hope that answered your question there, Abigail. If not, reach out to us and we'll get you taken care of.
Okay, bye, y'all.